Alright, today on Captain Castle's Laboratory, we are working on the Lemax Village Collection Ski Gondola. Well, part of it. I guess I should preface that. This is the part that was sent. This is the part that doesn't work. And they also sent the replacement parts from Happy Holiday Parts with it. So I can fix it. Alright, so as you can imagine, if this was complete, there'd be a similar looking one at the other end with these wheels and the big wheel so it can come back and forth. Now, I have it plugged in, and if I turn it on, you can see it's moving slow, but I should not be able to do this. Because what I was doing is going up and down, and if I increase the speed, see how it stops? It's not really going faster. I think it's got a broken gear. And I was looking for my scale, because this thing is heavy. I thought the box was heavy because of the type of packing, which is also extremely heavy. This thing has some gravity in it. So, yeah, it's pretty stout. I'm going, it's probably a good 8 pounds. You know, when I'm done, maybe I can look harder and maybe find my scales. I have 2 scales for shipping stuff, and I can't find either. Alright, so on the bottom, it's just solid plastic, but we got 4 rubber feet that are not in any square. So I'm going to have to assume that underneath those 4 rubber feet is the screws. So I'm going to slowly pull them out, and yeah, there's a screw. So I'm going to set this one over here. And this one. This one. Oh, these things are in there. They use some really good double back tape on those. Ain't gonna lie. Alright, so in case you haven't seen this before, because I haven't, there's the plug hole. And then we have a off on and a volume, or sorry, volume, speed control, volume. Oh, you can tell I'm so used to working on the ones that actually are supposed to make noise. So, I'm assuming inside here is a transformer of some sort, because this thing has a lot of weight. It is plastic. You can hear it's just plastic, but it is really heavy. So, kind of happy I get to look at this and see the inside. I'm always interested in looking at new pieces. There's thousands, if not over 10,000 animated houses that have been made over the last probably 50 or 60 years. And I know I'll never see them all. But it's interesting to see how they're built, assembled, created, so on and so forth. So, but to me it sounds like it's got a broken gear. In this package I see a motor, and that's kind of concerning because it sounds like a gear. But I guess we'll find out. I'm going to set it back down. I'm looking to see how it comes apart because she doesn't want to come out, so that probably would be the reason. So pop off the knob, get yourself a handy dandy pair of some sort of squeezy tool. There we go. And get that to break free so you can unscrew it. A lot of wire strippers have teeth at the end for pliers, and generally that's what they get used for. They can be used for other things, but I generally use them, especially when I'm working with switches, as a pair of pliers to tighten and loosen the nut on rheostats. Let's see if that makes a difference now. Not really. Holy smokums. Look at the size of this thing. Alright, so the bottom finally came off. The reason it stayed and it didn't pop off right away was the feet stick in really far. But And that's a steel weight. Now I know why this thing's so heavy. It has 2 steel weights to keep it from tipping over. So when you have your gondola set up and you got your ski lift, etc., you know, your cars, whatever they call them, I'm not a skier, going out to the next one over here, or over wherever, the torque is going to try and do this as it spins. It's going to start tipping it. So you need a counterweight. So they got a big one and a little one. Big one, little one. Here's the gearbox that drives that. And there's the rheostat, which apparently did not attach to the bottom. So I'm going to put that nut on right now. So one, I don't lose it, and 2, I don't forget. So, because we know the rheostat works. So I'm going to pop this thing back on. A lot of pieces, like Mr. Christmas as an example, the rheostat, you have to remove it to get it apart. Whether you have to remove the volume knob or you have to remove the actual nut. I assumed this was the same, and well, I assumed wrong. There we go. I'm just going to do finger tight for the moment. Alrighty. So, on the gearbox, there are 2 holes on other ends that appear to screw all the way through to the plastic top, and that one just looks like it holds the black cap on. So I'm going to take out the 2 deep ones first. And here is the drive that goes to the shaft that spins this wheel right here. These weights are obnoxious. So I'm going to try and bring it out where it won't break the wires. And we got 1 screw in the back and a couple screws in the front. So the red wire connects to the power switch. The black wire connects to the rheostat. And we have another red wire that goes from the power switch to the rheostat. And then the also the red wire that goes to the rheostat bypasses through the power. So it's kind of important. But let's finish taking this thing apart and see what's going on. That's the one from the back. And I need a smaller screwdriver for the front side. There we go. So here's our gearbox. Here's the motor. Here's the replacement motor, but again, I don't think that's the problem. It does come with wire, so you can resolder all these wires back in. Let's take a look. Let's put power and just check the motor, see if that's not what's clacking. I don't think it is. So plug it in. Yeah, the motor is fine. Whether I rotate this or not, it just speeds up and slows down. Sounds fine. So when this goes back, it'll go back with its new motor. I'm sure that was an expensive motor. I can tell you the receipt was sent with it. Yeah, that was a $35 motor. So it'll go back to its owner. So they have a spare. Yes. So the clacking is probably one of these gears here. Sorry. Allergy season's definitely not over. And I think I see it. It looks like the worm gear is broken. The worm gear is broken. So that's part of the problem. Let's pop it out. This thing has 2 worm gears and 3 standard gears. I'm just going to check this gear cluster. And I'm going to check the transfer gear, which transfers that energy up to the spinning top. It looks okay. So what's broke is this worm gear. Just making sure none of these, this gear slips. That's not good. Is it cracked? Doesn't appear to be cracked. Why is it slipping? Some of the knurls are showing, the serrated parts. I'm just going to try and push it down a little, see if that helps and not make it slip. That's better. So, this gear right here is cracked. And okay, the bushings do come off good. Alright, so if you can see the big old hairline fracture right there. So I think the combination of the problem is the crack gear and this gear, these two, which looks like these, but this has a spacer. They spin independently of each other and are not supposed to. So I'm going to see if I can push them down to the knurled section. If you've watched this before, this hole right here I've used many a times to push gears, because I can put the shaft inside and then I can tap and set the gears. There. Now they're set. I'm not going to cut the gear. I'm going to see if I can pry with this. Nope. I got to get this worm gear off. I don't think this will do it. I have a gear puller for motors. I don't think it's going to pull the gear for the worm. So what this is designed to do is pull these off if they're metal. So I want to get it off without breaking the 14 tooth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 14 tooth. There we go. Now she's coming. Got it. All right. Just make sure there's no worm gear in here. Just got lubrication, motor, wire, and heat shrink. So I got some worm gears, but they're much longer. They can be cut. I might have to do that. Let me just see what else I got hiding over here. Oh, here's a short one right there. Make sure they're the same diameter. They are. And the hole looks to be the same. Just making sure the spiral cut was in the same direction. Alright. Apparently the hole in the center is slightly bigger on the old gear. So, micro drill bits and a micro hand drill. I'm just going to make this hole slightly larger so when I press it over the splines, it grabs the splines, cuts them in, but doesn't crack the gear because, yeah, that would be bad. So it's bigger than that hole and it's bigger than that hole, so we're going to go to the next size down. If I can get it out. There we go. Perfect. All right. That should do. Now, micro bits come in multiple packaging styles. There's this one too. Let's take a look at what sizes we got in here. There we go. The drill bits all have to be on the bottom for the box to slide. That's way too small. Yeah, this box is supposed to slide, but of course, whenever I want to do something on the camera, it never works because, you know, Murphy. There we go. Yeah, it's still not sliding. There we go. So let's go to that size. Okay. Screw it. It's supposed to do, if you've never seen these, it's got a hole. You line it up to the size you want, and then the drill bit's supposed to come out of the hole. But the drill bit doesn't want to move. Like I said, there we go. Alright, so the biggest drill bit in here is still too small. I think this is the biggest drill bit. I think it went into the wrong slot. Let's try it again. No. So, go with this one. This little metal hand drill is kind of nice because it has 4 collets. There we go. Yeah, there's certainly 4 sizes of collets. It only has 2 collets, but they're double-ended. And the top swivel, so you can easily just spin it with your fingers. So I'm just going to make this hole one size bigger so I can press it onto the shaft and hopefully not break the gear. I don't know how many people out there have this ride, but I gotta look it up. I'm curious. Looks interesting. It's gotta be heavy. I'm assuming the other end has the same weights. It's just coming through. There we go. All the way through. Now we just need to clean up any of the plastic burrs on the inside. And I should be able to press this bad boy on. And hopefully we'll get this fixed. Hopefully that's the problem. The only other problem I can see is potentially is this piece here that's pressed through. But we're going to find out. Alright, so let's get this thing done. Alright. Alright, she's pressed on. Go. Nice and snug. Well, it sounds better, and it is turning. Yep, just like it's supposed to. Alright, let's get it back together. I just want to look at the shaft in here. I think the other problem might be this wheel. This wheel right here has two little teeth that grab little teeth on the inside of the end of this shaft. These teeth are worn down. I'm wondering if that's part of the skipping. We won't know until we reassemble it. So we got to reassemble it because it needs the torque of that. So a small screw, small screwdriver. It's kind of odd that it has two different size screws. That is what it is. It's one. 2. Now, if you break the wires off of the motor as an example and you have to solder them back on, if you put them in backwards, you'll know instantly because your gondola will be going up in the wrong direction. So you can always test it before you put your bottom back on. If you're replacing the motor, we're not replacing the motor. Trying to get the teeth to line up like I was talking about. Almost went in. There we go. Wow. That is a very tight fit. That's 1. That's 2. Put the power supply port back into its hole. I'm just going to put the plastic bottom on just to hold it in place. That way the plastic will hold in the AC adapter hole, since that's not held in with anything more than the screws in the bottom. Oh yeah, before I forget, it's only finger tight. There we go. Now this is a notched or keyed, so I'm making sure that this cap is in the right direction to stick on. There we go. It's the teeth right here. These teeth just aren't engaging up here. If I lift it, it completely disengages, and if I try and drop it, it won't. So it did have a broken worm gear, which is the clacking inside the gearbox. That thing is split. We have a problem with the other gear, or the tooth plate, whatever they call it. It's not really a gear though. the teeth on the inside of this look beautiful. This doesn't. So, show you what I'm talking about. I might have to see if Happy Holiday Parts has it. But inside there, that is actually got inside teeth. And then this has two little teeth on the outside edges. And they're skipping because they're actually ground down or sheared off. I think that's why this thing's making the noise, besides this broken worm gear, which is right here. There's the crack. So it had a broken gear, and it has a bad clutch. I don't know what they call this piece. I really don't. It's pressed on. I'm going to try something. It's pressed on, and it's a little low. I'm going to pull it up to the top, see if it seats better in there. Maybe it's just a seating issue. I'm not gonna lie, it is not that easy to put in. The hole they cut in the plastic is like the exact same size as the hole or the diameter of that piece, whatever they call it, and it is a very, very tight fit. Yeah, see, now it's not moving. Alright, so I'm just gonna now, because if that's the problem, I'm gonna have to put something on there to stop it from dropping again. Probably super glue. So let's try this again. They're slow. That's fast. Look, it's not stopping. I'm fighting it. It's fighting me. You can see the jerk, but it's not stopping. Well, I stopped there. I didn't want to break it. It stopped there because I caught the casting. There's a casting piece that sticks out right in here, right on the seam. And it caught my finger. It's right there. But it fought its way through. Okay, so if you have the gondola and you're having a clacking sound, but the motor still sounds good, you probably don't have a bad motor. You probably have a broken gear, or whatever that piece is called that transfers the energy from the motor to the large wheel on top is slipping. The shafts that hold the gears and that tooth, I guess technically it's a gear, are splined, and I noticed that the gears are walking off their splines. So I brought this up to where it's now level with the metal shaft, which allows us to go all the way in and grab as much meat as possible. So I'm thinking, oh, I bet you it's a ratchet. Hold on a second. I need my magnifiers. I think I understand. My magnifiers. I think I understand how this works. I just need to be able to see inside. Let's see. Something brighter than that. I bet you this is a ratchet. Okay, it is. All right, this makes sense now. All right, I can explain this to you. Now that I have a brighter light, you know, cell phone flashlights are pretty decent for close-up stuff. So, inside here, instead of it being a gear, it's little peaks. And this, with the magnifier, is rounded. So, kind of like a ratchet when you're, you know, if you ever use one, a ratcheting wrench or a ratchet set, when you go in one direction and engages, you go the other direction, it goes click, 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 click. So you can go forward, back, forward, back. What's happening is if you overload this wheel, instead of it binding up the mechanism and breaking everything, it's designed to skip over those teeth and these teeth. So this will spin and then this will disengage. So this will stop spinning, which is when my finger stopped it. It went click, 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 and then re-engaged. It's a ratchet mechanism. So this and this together make a ratchet. So it's not a gear. It's the same thing or similar to what's in your socket. It might even be called a centrifugal clutch. They may refer to it as that. They may refer to it as something completely different because I don't know what it'd be referred to in hobbies. But basically, if you overstress the plastic flexes and allows it to slip out of the way. Very interesting. I'm not going to lie, that's actually pretty ingenious, because I wonder if in design process they had it break. The direct drive would snap these gears or snap the worm gear or twist the shaft or break the press for the top pulley. So, but here's the problem. This shaft is metal and smooth, but the knurling is at the top. These gears here, here's the one I replaced. You can see the knurling is sticking out. This is the gear that when I twisted, this gear was spinning separately from this gear. They're not supposed to spin separately. It almost looks like they may have had an adhesive in here at one point. This knurling should be all the way into the gear. So this gear still has to be pressed in a little bit more. But this was completely down here. There you see the silver. And then most of the knurling was up top. So this, which I can't slide, was slipping on this shaft, which is why it was really bad. So it's a combination of a couple of things. Motor's good. So we have a cracked worm gear, which we replaced. I think what I put it around here somewhere, but you saw it. And then we have two gears, this set and this ratchet, that have slid free of their placement. So I'm going to clean this shaft. And now how I do it, because I don't think we're going to be able to find a new press-on ratchet. And that's what I'm going to call it until I learn whatever its correct name is, which that might be its correct name. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off the grease from the shaft, and I'm going to put a dab of super glue on it. And what that dab of super glue will do is hopefully bond to the base of the plastic and the metal shaft to prevent it from sliding. Now, what that'll do in the future is if it has to be replaced, it's going to make it slightly harder. Not going to lie. But because it's plastic to metal, it usually will break free. So I've added it. I'm now just using the tip of this to run it around to make a bead. I'm not adding any more. I'm not squeezing the bottle. I'm just using the tip to give me a full coverage around that. To keep it from running down into the gear, I'm just going to place it upside down, like so. A little counterweight. And now I'm going to push this down a little further, hopefully without breaking the worm here. So I have to do it slightly off camera because the shaft is so long it's hitting my bench, but I have a hole right outside of the camera it's viewing, about 3 inches, maybe 2.5, that I can hopefully press this through. Let's see if I do it this way, will it hit? I'll try and do it on camera. So instead of smacking the gears, I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to excuse me, tap the shaft, which vibrated my whole workbench. Is the glue set? Almost. Remember, anything can be a hammer. Except for a hammer. I need something with a little bit more weight behind it. So I'm going to use a pair of extended wire cutters. There we go. Now it's moving. The bouncing of the gears, the teeth are actually kind of sharp and it's kind of annoying, so that's why I went to the pliers. And I tapped the hair too far, of course. There. Perfect. So I have about the same amount of knurling on both sides, because these gears are slightly smaller than the knurled section of the gear set. And I cannot twist them separately from each other. I'm going to put it back in here and make sure the box closes like it's supposed to. You know, because when you shift the height of something, you can shift its tolerances within its enclosure. And the box still closes like it's supposed to. So let's put this thing back together again. It's a hair off. When you do it, you also have to make sure that this worm gear grabs towards the center of teeth onto this gear, and I'm a little low. Maybe that's why they have so much extra knurling. But it was also way out of alignment since I could separate the two gears. And the only reason I have a second set of pliers is so it doesn't hit my bench. Because then it's like driving a nail. Still a little low, a little more. That's better. That is a lot better. All right. Put it all back in. Make sure the motor sits where it's supposed to. There we go. Put this back in. Super glue has hardened. Or Gorilla Glue, since Super Glue is a brand name brand. Little screw. Big screw. Also, when you put this back in, make sure this red wire does not go underneath the box. There is no tolerance for space in here, so anything that's underneath that box will inhibit you from getting this box to sit flush inside. There we go. Getting better at it now that I see the trick. If you have this piece and you pull out this gear set, when you push it back in, do it at a slight angle so you can line up the edge of the ratchet and then push it through. You know, just kind of tip it in. Since the hole is the same size as the ratchet. Okay, all right, one more test. Let's put that back in. Something's out of alignment. All right, did I not get it in or did it slip? Getting really good at this. Trial and error. Okay, that's nice and hard. It's not moving. So that's a small screw. We need the big screw first. See if my gears came apart. Sorry about the dog. She seems to do that a lot when I film, especially more often. Yep, my gear slid. Ooh, give me a second. Alrighty. I'm double checking it's not cracked. It shouldn't have slid. No, she looks good. So that's kind of odd. I'm going to try one other thing. I had to do this on a different ride. I had to shim it because the tolerances had worn out. Let me just try a shim and see what happens. Is that going to allow this to set where I need it to? No, it's not tall enough. There's a thicker shim. Sometimes when they wear, you have to put shims in to fix the gap. And I'm wondering if that's part of the problem. And that's why there's so much knurled area. I said, the teacup ride, I had to shim because the tolerances were completely out of whack. And it kept binding because of it. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Let's try it one more time now. No. Yeah, that fits pretty good. Cool. When you buy gear kits, the gear kits come with plastic bushings, spacers, and shims. There's a reason for that. It's because plastic wears down. So sometimes you might have to put a spacer. The gear that was broke had a black spacer on one end and a one in the middle. Apparently I lost that little screw. Or is, nope, it's in there. Never mind. Alright, so pull the wires out of the way, tip it in at an angle, push it flush. One screw. That's nice and tight. Okay, I'm not gonna fight with it there. I'm just gonna plug it in outside. Yeah, so. Just stronger than my finger. Okay, the super glue is holding. But I don't know why the motor's surging. So I'm gonna open it back up. Maybe the motor is going out. It sounded fine earlier, but it was under a load. So, big one. So apparently it's a relatively easy unit to work on. It's just temperamental. That or I'm just having an off day. There's the little guy. A little separation. Set it down. Put it back in. I'm going to use my fingers to hold it, put this on the slowest setting. I'm going to try and hold it in with my finger. So it's not the motor. My my shim is actually touching the motor itself, so the shim's too big. Alright. I tried. So I'm going to reset the gear where it's offset really far, and I'll probably put a dab of glue on it to try and hold it. If I need it. So I took one shim out, as I said I had two. And that's the one that was touching the motor. That's why it was surging. Put the motor back in. Make sure when you put the motor in that the two connections fit in the grooves cut out for the motor. That way it fits correctly. And not surging anymore. So it was the shim. So let's put it all back together, and this should be the last time. And I can assemble the bottom, glue those feet back on, and get it sent back to its owner. So a 10-minute job turned out to be like a half hour or so. So what we can take away from this is you might have to shim it, maybe, and check for broken gears. If you need a motor, Happy Holiday Parts apparently does carry them. Since, like I said, that's the kit over there now. So that's nice to know, because it's not a standard motor. Probably find them other places, but with Happy Holiday Parts, you get some new wires that you can solder on. You also get lube for the gearbox, which is nice. This gearbox still got plenty of lube. You know, my fingers are slimy. So, there we go. Nice and tight. Should be the last time. There we go. So, you have the gondola, remove the 4 pads, then put the take the screws out, tip it on its side, just carefully get the plate off. When you remove the plate, the power port is not held in by anything other than this bottom plate. There are 2 screws diagonal that hold in the actual motor and gearbox. Take the 2 screws out. Once you take the screws out, pull the gearbox down carefully because the wires are not long enough to allow it to come all the way out. Oh, that was right. Can only go on one way. There we go. Once you get those screws out, there is a smaller screw on the top and a bigger screw on the bottom. Take those apart, carefully pull apart the box, and check your gears, check your motor, lubricate them if necessary. These are still greasy. Check the height, because apparently they're walking. Now, I did leave the one smaller shim on the shaft, so that should help take up any travel. And then the ratchet part with the dab of super glue that went all the way around the base to hold it, that should help keep it from walking as well, falling down. So currently, when I'm filming this, Happy Holiday Parts is closed. They're on vacation. So the next time I talk with Victor, I do talk to him regularly, I'll ask him if he has the ratcheting assembly for the gondola, because I'm curious. So there we go. Non-stop, just like it should. So this is the Lemax, I always forget the name. Lemax Village Collection Ski Gondola, according to the paperwork for this motor. So I'm going to message the person and tell them I'm sending back their motor. That way they have it as a spare. And let them know that they can use it for the future. Just so you know, the motor is a 11,300 RPM motor with a voltage range of 4.5 to 12 volts DC. This is 4.5. So what it's telling you is, and I'm not telling you to do this, if you plugged a 12 volt power in here by accident, that happens because they're the same size, it wouldn't burn up this motor. There's no circuitry in here. The only thing in here is a button and a rheostat and a motor. There's 4 wires. That's it. Very basic, very simplistic. So you could boost this by making it go faster with a higher voltage. I'm not going to tell you to do that, but if you want to try it, it's your product. You can do whatever you want. But if I had the rest of it, I'd show you the whole thing, but I'm sure you guys know how to use the Google, and you can Google it and see the whole thing. Some of the people out there might actually have it. I'm going to look it up because I have never seen it. I really am. It would be nice to see it. Somebody I know has the roller coaster. I think it's Mr. Christmas. It could be wrong. It's like the only one that made a roller coaster. I'm excited that I'm going to get to see that here shortly. Apparently it's broken. Because when I work on new things like this, it's always interesting. Because, you know, I don't know how to take them apart. I don't know how to fix them until I take them apart on camera. So you get to watch my process at the same time I'm learning my process. Then I can use it for the future. And of course, when I'm done disassembling, I can tell you the easier way to do it, the faster way, because once I've done it the first time, I know how it comes back apart. So Lemax gondola, remove the 4 rubber pads right here, and take out the 4 screws. Once you take out the 4 screws, you can then take the base off. The gearbox is here. Careful because of the weights. I swear to God, it's 6 pounds of weight minimum. And try not to drop it. Let it slide out of your hands, especially if you play with that gearbox, because it makes your hands slick. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting piece. I'd like to see the rest of it, and I probably will go on and Google it. Check the ratchet, make sure it didn't slide down, the knurls are completely covered, and then check your gear. See if you have a broken main gear, worm gear. Maybe one of the bushings is split. So, since it does have 2 bushings on the one shaft. But anyhow, that concludes this one. Till the next one, we'll see you then. I usually will let this sit here and run for, I usually test all my pieces for half an hour. So I will let it run and then keep checking on it. So anytime I fix one, I usually let it run for 30 minutes just to make sure that we're good. So until the next one, thanks for watching.